From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell in London and welcome to Stumped. I'm joined by the ABC's Brett Sprigg, who's in Sydney, and for Akashvani it's Charu Sharma, who is in the village of Kutta in Coorg. Now, can India's men maintain their dominance of ICC tournaments through to their home T20 World Cup in 2026? Gautam Gambhir's side were crowned ICC Men's Champions Trophy winners with that 4-wicket win over New Zealand in the final in Dubai, and that adds to the T20 World Cup they won in Barbados last year. India then have won 2 of the last 3 ICC tournaments, and in that time they have won 23 of 24 completed matches going back to the 2023 World Cup. Of course, that only loss was the final of that tournament against Australia. Charu, first of all, how has India's win been celebrated in the last few days?
Well, no ticker tape parade, I'm afraid. There was a notice there saying there was a lot of crowd at the airport to receive some of the players because they came back from Dubai in a bit of a fractured fashion. They didn't all land together. They went to their various cities, so there was no sort of major celebration. But I think the media was certainly very delighted that India had won the tournament, and of course, along the way, beating Pakistan. And for now, the big nemesis seems to be New Zealand. So 2 wins over New Zealand made them very happy for sure. And I think a lot of news really was surrounding those who were in some sort of trouble or question before the tournament started, whether their careers are going to be elongated or not. And I think all's quiet on that front for sure.
Well, yeah, we talked on last week's show about whether Rohit Sharma might retire, but no plans to retire from ODIs just yet.
No, in fact, there's some level of talk about, and from him too, about the 2007 World Cup. So, gosh, that's a couple of years away, or even a little more. And one can't argue now because he was the man of the match at the final and getting the big 70 against New Zealand, winning the match for India, and all is well on his front. I suppose. And of course, there's a lot of noise now about, all of a sudden, say a few months ago, it was about how the board or selectors should interfere and maybe get these guys to, or hint to them that they should be going. Now it's all about, no, let them be. Let them take their own decision. They have a right to take their own decision in their own time. And I suppose there's some truth to that as well, because these guys are such huge heroes in India that it's going to be very difficult for people to axe them. But they will have to use their own wisdom to find out when they should leave the game. I think both Kohli and Sharma are in many ways ready. And had they gone down in the final, I suspect that decision to retire might have been hastened. But now, having won, both have scored, well, Rohit only in the final, have scored runs. They're back to being huge heroes in the country, and people can't see beyond them. So I'm afraid that's not fantastic news for the hungry young guys ready to replace them. But it does look like they are ready for longer innings, particularly in the ODIs. T20, of course, is a different kettle of fish, and both may leave that international reign of the T20 sooner. They may continue, of course, with the IPL, but looks like they're, what's the word here? Marking their crease for another long innings.
Digging in. It was an iconic photograph, I thought, with Kohli and Rohit sort of stumps being held aloft when they walked off the field, having won. But Brett, Kohli reckons that this current India squad has enough talent to, in his words, take on the world for the next 8 years. What do you think? And more to the point, who's going to challenge India?
I said last week that, okay, yes, they certainly got looked after by that whole situation in Dubai during the Champions Trophy. They also happen to be the best white ball team in the world. Both of those things can be true. So, yeah, it's a time of transition, and a lot of those guys, as you say, will be sort of phased out over the next few years, or phase themselves out. Virat, Rohit, Jadoo, KL Rahul, maybe you could play a few more years. As to who stops them, it's a boring answer. I suppose New Zealand have been so consistent. You look at their ability, and speaking of, it's the opposite. It's a country with a small population that somehow manages to be a fantastic sporting performer. New Zealand have obviously, their final opponents from last week will be up there, as will Australia, because Australia has the resources to adapt and whatever else. But look, the fact is there are going to be big tournaments held in India. The real test will come when they're playing in major tournaments outside the subcontinent. So that's what I look forward to seeing the most.
I'll have to agree with Spriggy. I think Australia will continue to be the dominant team, men or women, around the world in any format, depending on their hunger. And I would like to suggest that Australia are just not very hung up on T20 cricket. They seem to treat it very lightly. a little more seriously one-day cricket, and of course very seriously Test match cricket. But when it comes to a T20 World Cup, Australia just don't seem to care enough. And I wonder if it's going to be a team such as, say, South Africa, who might come in and just surprise us a bit because they've got quality everywhere. I know they're struggling with several other issues, but of late, I mean, they are playing the World Test Championship. They have done reasonably well. So it could be a dark horse there. I think the West Indies, too, are just not creating the new set of heroes. And I don't think it's going to be any subcontinental team. So India are pretty much huge title favorites in their home conditions or in subcontinental conditions without the other subcontinental teams mounting a challenge.
And a question for me will be whether Afghanistan can go, one step further, which we saw them compete
Good question,
to the
Alison. What do you
semi-finals
think?
in 2024. I think they would be on track to win a T20 World Cup within the next 5 years. Finally, on Stumped, Delhi Capitals have been in the headlines for a couple of reasons this week. First, their women's team making the final of the WPL for the third year in a row. Their captain, Meg Lanning, will be hoping they can put recent final defeats behind them and finally get over the line. We'll have more on the final in next week's show. But also the fact that Delhi Capitals men will be without England star batter Harry Brook. He's withdrawn from the IPL for the second year in a row. Now, last year it was due to a family bereavement. This year, he says he wants to prioritise playing for his country. So Brook was signed by DC at the IPL mega auction in a deal that was worth over $763,000. And under new rules brought in this year, it means he's now facing a potential 2-year ban from the tournament. So, Charu, how has news of Brook's withdrawal gone down, both in IPL circles and among fans?
The thing is that he didn't do too well last year or the year before, whenever he actually did play the IPL. So that kind of reduced his value a bit. I know he's rising internationally as one of the biggest stars and perhaps even in the near future a skipper of England. But he hasn't really helped his cause within the IPL by his performances, and nor, of course, now by opting out once again for no real medical or personal related reasons. So there is a lot of talk about a 2-year ban. Maybe he's being looked after very well by the England Cricket Board because he's certainly set to lose a lot of revenue here this year and the next couple of years. And I do think that the IPL body is probably going to go ahead with the ban because they want the right messages going out. They were very severe during the auction by setting those rules about if you enter and don't participate, there will be a stiff fine.
And no point having rules if you don't implement them.
Well, true, and I think Harry Brook might be at the forefront of just making a show of it. But I can't quite figure out why he suddenly wanted to not play in the IPL. Now it's a very intense competition. He wants to reserve himself for whatever else. But it's not just the revenue. I think he might want to come back and prove himself because he is one of the big white ball stars. And IPL, whether you like it or not, is the biggest proving ground. And I'm a little surprised by this decision. I have no doubt that the IPL committee will not be able to be soft here and will have to just go in for the kind of penalties that they have drawn up.
Firstly, when Jim's back next week, can you ask him what he thinks about the IPL, maybe banning people from? I'd love to hear my senior colleagues' response to a potential IPL ban on certain players. But on to Harry Brook, Ali, and he's very much an England regular across the formats these days. He's the vice captain limited overs cricket and is certainly one of the candidates to replace the outgoing Josh Buttler as white ball captain. How much do you think that has played a part in his decision?
I suspect Rob Key, who's the director of England men's cricket, has sounded him out, even if it's a text message like he said he sent to Ben Stokes saying, I've just mentioned your name in the media about being ODI captain, and Stokes apparently replied with a thumbs up emoji. It makes you think, yes, there's probably been some kind of conversation. Maybe Brook either knows he's in the consideration, which he absolutely is, or he's had a strong indication that if he wants to take the role, then he's the prime candidate, and therefore he's giving himself a bit more space and time in his schedule. And I'm sure he would be very highly compensated for that because, again, you don't just turn down $763,000 if you don't think there might be something coming, in the opposite direction, and not least, for the next 2 years if he's missing out on IPL money. So, yeah, we're not going to know for a little while who's going to be England's white ball captain. But, yeah, there clearly seems some correlation between this vacancy coming up, Brook being a top contender for the ODI, the white ball captaincy, and then him pulling out from the IPL.
He's not to $750,000 and change. It's another 2 seasons, so potentially, and if he'd done well, his value could have rocketed as well. So you're talking about maybe $2.5 million US over the next couple of years that he may be letting go now. Like I said, the ECB must be looking after him really well for him to not consider making that revenue when he's in the prime of his white ball life.
Maybe there's wholesome reasons in it. Maybe he just really likes playing at home, playing for Yorkshire, focusing on England and feeling enough money is enough. I don't know. It'd be really interesting to have a chat with him at some stage and hear his reasoning behind it all. But that's all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. My thanks to Brett Sprigg and Charu Sharma, and of course to all of you. And we'll speak to you again next week. Until then, bye for now.